Tilder!
This is the Godox SZ150R. It's a bicolor and RGB COB light with special effects. Cost about $560. It's got a fan off mode. You get 35% in bicolor mode and 75% in RGB mode. The color quality is really good in tungsten and daylight mode. Here is the fan noise when it's turned on. Unfortunately, this does not have a V-mount battery solution. It's firmware upgradable. Do I recommend this? Not if you're a beginner without knowing why you would need a COB LED in the first place. This LED is more for intermediate filmmakers that are upgrading their beginner kit, or advanced filmmakers looking to have an all-in-one LED color solution. Want to know how this light compares to other lights I've reviewed? Visit TLDRfilmmaker.com.
Done! Roll that intro!
What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not this Godox SZ150R is going to be the right solution for you and your overall filmmaking kit. And I want to thank Godox for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review today. Now, coming in at approximately $560, around there, you're basically going to get everything you need, including a carrying case, reflector, the light, the power brick, yada, yada, yada. Now, the cool, awesome thing about this light is the fact that it is a COB LED light, but it's bicolor and it also has RGBs with RGB special effects. So pretty much everything you could possibly want into one light. And honestly, it works quite well. There's some awesome features on this thing. First off, the build quality is very nice from what we've seen from the SL150 line. The LCD screen on the back has been upgraded to basically be an LCD screen, so everything is super sharp, super clear, and you're able to basically read everything on the menu and navigate around. There is a fan off mode, and in which case, in bicolor mode, you're going to get approximately 35% when the fan is off in terms of full power output. And in the RGB mode, you're going to be left at 75% full output. Now, the one thing that this light is kind of marketing is the fact that it has this focusable light. This is a little bit misleading to me because there's really not much focusing going on in terms of a Fresnel lens in the traditional sense. So if you don't have the reflector on and you just start moving the focusing knob, really, nothing's happening. Your LED is just coming out of the body a little bit more or going back in. So nothing is actually happening. Where the focusing part comes in is you need to put the reflector on it, in which case it is going to focus the beam into a little bit more of a spot beam. Now, depending on what you're doing, you can either flood that spot beam a little bit to even things out, or you can spot it down and get more lux readings or light output if you're shooting through a very specific type of diffusion material and you're just trying to reach that light as far as you can with as much power as you can. So really, that's the only focusing that's happening, not in the traditional sense of a Fresnel lens. Now, unfortunately, you can't use Sony V-mount batteries to power this thing. You're probably going to have to get a camping generator of some kind that's over 150 watts to be able to use this in external outdoor shoot. Is this necessarily a bad thing? Personally, I don't think it is, because eventually there's going to be a day where I'll probably, instead of buying a whole army of V-mount batteries, I might just buy a bunch of camping generators, maybe some 1,000-watt ones, because LEDs are just getting more and more powerful. Aperture just released their 600D, so that's 600 watts of power, which is definitely better than a tungsten source. So I would just say it might be easier just to get a camping generator to power multiple lights on your sets when you're going outdoors. It's less thing to charge, and it's got a lot more usability than just a V-mount battery. Now, you can control this light with a remote control, which does come as a separate purchase, and depending on where you buy it from, it can be done in a bundle, but otherwise, there is a smartphone app should you need it. Last but not least, the one thing that I think is very interesting is that there is a USB port on here for firmware upgrades. Now, I'm going to talk about this towards my bottom line because I know why you're here. Let's go to the tests. In the light output test, the SZ150R is posting some pretty good numbers in terms of its bicolor modes. Now, I am just using 3200K and 5600K instead of the extremes, as these are quite common for your indoor filmmaking use, in which case the lux readings are quite good, and I think this will pretty much do everything you would need, even with a softbox in front of it. Here we have the RGB output tests, and basically I have the lens stopped at f2.8 for consistency across each color, so you can see what each one is doing on the waveform. And generally speaking, this COB LED is doing a really good job replicating all the colors on the vector scopes. For this color quality test, I did not do a custom white balance. I literally just dialed in the Kelvin, and this is what we are reading. This is actually a big surprise to me because the tungsten is actually hitting the skin tone where it needs to be, and even in daylight, everything is pointing where it should be. Here's an example with my skin between the 3200K and 5600K, and you can pretty much tell, yeah, it is right on the skin line. For the fan noise test, I am wearing a lavalier mic and I am standing 6 feet away, which is approximately where you would be away from the light. And I am using my YouTube audio gain settings so you can really hear what the fan sounds like in a real situation. So what's the bottom line here? Is this SZ150R something you should be thinking about for your overall filmmaking kit? Now, I'm going to break this down. If you're a beginner and you have no idea the difference between an LED, a COB light, a tube light, what they do in terms of how to get the look you're looking for, you don't quite understand it yet, then don't buy this light. $560 some is a lot of money for you to buy one light that you don't understand why you're using it. I would heavily suggest you, whether you're starting off with light bulbs or very cheap LED panels, something. You need to just try with cheap lighting equipment, learn about how lighting can come from here, what it does to your face, understand why you need a big old softbox, whatever. Do that with like under $100 if you can. Just learn. After that, then you become an intermediate filmmaker or advanced filmmaker, which is what this light is for. So basically I'm saying this, an intermediate filmmaker who's looking to upgrade and overhaul their lighting equipment, they know why they need this light because it's missing in their kit and they like the overall features, which I'll talk about. Advanced filmmakers that might just want something that's in a COB form versus an LED panel form, because traditionally up until this point, we only have RGB WW type panels where they can get that RGB, the special effects, the bicolor modes. This is just a COB version, which is great because it has a Bowens mount, so you can put some light modifiers onto it, or it's just a better form factor for what they need. That being said, this light is awesome. I see it as kind of like this be-all, end-all, kind of, in terms of a studio setting. Because it can't readily be powered by V-mount batteries if you have a bunch of that, it is a downside for me. But if you have a nice YouTube studio setup, this is great because you literally can do everything with it, or even a corporate shoot, or if you do a bunch of interviews and you're always plugged into power. You have this bicolor ability, which it actually does quite well in daylight and tungsten. Tungsten's a little bit interesting because even though the color chips are more or less going where they need to be, when you look at the neutral colors like grays, whites, and blacks, it seems like it's shifting over towards blue. Now, this might seem like a con. I actually kind of see it as a pro. And the reason I'm saying this is because you have color contrast at this point. If you're looking at any action film, generally speaking, the skin tone is saturated close to where it needs to be, while all the other stuff is desaturated, neutralized, and turned towards blue. So you're basically getting that action look out of this light. It is something I'll probably have to play around with, but generally speaking, if you're not shooting in a dark, moody scene where things are falling into shadows and grays, and you are actually shooting in a lit room of tungsten, that's not a really big deal either, because the greens, the blues, all the other colors on the chips are reaching to where they need to be. So I would say it's actually quite an awesome feature, and it will work for what you need it to. Last but not least, you do have your RGBs, which is a nice, really bright and even spread of color, and it does quite well in that regard. And of course, if you need that RGB special effects stuff, they do have it. But really, the awesome thing is the fact that this light is firmware upgradable. Now, this is something that we're slowly starting to see, and it truly depends on the company to be on top of their game, to listen to feedback, or understanding where the opportunities are for firmware upgrades to make their lights even better than when it came out of the factory. And I can already think of that maybe some people have a different idea of special effects, and well, firmware upgrade, add that special effect in there, or fine tune the frequency. If people are saying, could you make it a little bit slower? Could you add a fourth version or what have you? In which case they can do that. But the one thing I want them to do right now with a firmware upgrade is this. So Godox, if you're listening, here's what I got for you. Right now, the fan seems to just have an on speed and an off speed. I don't really think there's actually a thermometer inside for it to understand how to ramp the fan. It seems like it's just going at one speed. When you turn the fan off, you are capped at 35% of the overall output, which actually puts it very, very close to cheap LED panels that are around, I don't know, 80 some bucks. I feel like, well, if I'm going to be cutting it down for silence and I'm down to an LED panel, is there really a reason for me to buy a COB light for this feature? The answer is no. And basically, I would say this, Godox, please create a firmware for fan mode high, medium, low, and off. If you can actually change the voltages, because I don't know if the fan is just plugged into a 12 volt steady, or can you actually regulate the voltage? If you can, try to figure this out so that we can get 75% full power and medium fan speed, maybe about 50% at low fan speed, and then 35% at zero fan speed. Not only are you giving your filmmakers the ability to say, hey, we actually only need 50%. Let's turn that fan noise lower so the audio people can get what they need. Now, granted, the fan noise really isn't that loud from normal fan noise in general. Like, it just depends. But honestly, the fan noise that I'm hearing, not a big deal, especially if you figure out where the light is and what microphone you're using. Shotgun mic is obviously going to do better, but even a lavalier mic might pick it up a little bit, but not really that bad. So, Godox, see if you can do this. Can you give us different fan modes so that we can have a little bit more ability to control the fan sound on set if we only need like 50% output? So that's the major thing that I want to say. Otherwise, that's really it. I think this is a very, very versatile light that can handle a lot of situations. I wish that it had V-mount battery, but I know why it's probably not going to happen with this specific lineup. They're probably going to come out with another one that can, but otherwise you can use camping generators if you already have it already. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.